Welcome back, everybody, to 31 1990s horror movies for Halloween, where I'm counting down my favorite horror movies from the 1990s. At number 8, we have a very important movie to me. Even though it doesn't make it to the top 5, it is a very important film to me, and there's a lot of nostalgia for it. And of course, that is Wes Craven's Scream. This was one of my early franchises. I actually watched this one before I saw the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. The way it worked was, like, I started watching horror movies, and then the first franchise I had gotten into was the Halloween franchise, and then the one after that was Scream, and that is thanks to one of my best friends, Keith. Keith and I met in middle school, and we were both interested in horror movies, and we were both getting into horror movies. I turned him on to the Halloween franchise, he turned me on to the Scream franchise. And we grew our friendship with the Halloween franchise and with the Scream franchise. I remember we had 2 sleepovers back then. One sleepover we watched the entire Halloween series, and then in the second sleepover, we watched the entire Scream series, which was 1, 2, and 3 at the time. And the Halloween series, it ended at Halloween H2O at the time. And those are some very fond memories of childhood. My friend Keith is a huge Scream fan. I would say, yes, it's definitely in his top 3 horror movies. Probably his top 10 favorite movies. I have no question about that. But I do have a soft spot for Scream, mostly because it is a big connection with a close friend of mine, and it was a big part of my childhood, because we didn't have too many franchises in the 90s. I mean, you had the Puppet Master franchise, which I talked about last time, but no one talked about the Puppet Master franchise as much. We did have Candyman, and then we had Candyman 2, but they weren't talked about as much. But then you had Scream, which was such a big hit, and then Scream 2 came out. Scream 3 came out, I believe that was in the 2000s, but the first 2 Screams came out in the 90s. And we had this franchise for the 90s. I mean, I don't think anybody will deny the most notorious franchise in the 90s was Scream. Child's Play very close to that, but when Scream came out, it was huge. Everybody was talking about Scream. Not just me and my friends, but many other people. It was a celebration of the horror audience, and that's what's grown my appreciation for it over the years. It is a tribute to horror as a whole, and the genre in general, but it is mostly a tribute to the horror fans. It is spoofing the genre, it's making fun of the genre, and celebrating it at the same time, which is a great way to do it, and I love the fact that it doesn't just celebrate the it doesn't just celebrate horror movies, it celebrates the horror fandom.
Jesus Christ, you don't know the rules?
Have an aneurysm, why don't you?
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
The costume of the ghost-faced killer, as he's been known to be called, it's simple but effective, and what makes it work so well is it does look like a costume that anybody could buy. Hell, it is a costume that anybody can buy now, but back then, it was a costume that already existed. I don't remember much of the details about that, but yeah. It looked like a costume that you could buy at a convenience store, which is what made it scary. It's like, okay, this could definitely be anybody. The opening sequence is one of the most notorious openings in horror because you had Drew Barrymore, who was a very popular actress at the time, being the first person killed, and nobody saw that coming. But it is a very brutal kill, and this was when cell phones were becoming a thing, and so Scream used this new invention. Phones had been used forever in the horror genre. When a Stranger Calls, Black Christmas, but now you have the cell phone, so it doesn't, like, you used to have the thing like, oh, the killer is calling from the house, the killer is in the house calling you. but now he has a cell phone, so the killer can be in your area and can be calling from anywhere.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
And of course you have all the references to different horror movies inside this film, which is always fun to see references, but it doesn't depend on the references. And that's what I appreciate. This is a horror movie with references in it, but it's not dependent on the references. You have Sidney Prescott, which is one of the best final girls in horror. And of course, you know, all the twists and turns in the movie that we all know and love. God, and some quality kills. I mean, yeah, they are mostly stabbings, but they're filmed in such an interesting way.
Casey!
Okay, this is another spoiler alert for the few of you who have not seen Scream, but I imagine most of you here have seen Scream, but spoiler alert, we find out that Sidney's boyfriend Billy and his friend Stu are the killers, and that helps answer a big criticism that people had with this film, how clumsy the killer is. Because the killer's constantly getting nailed and tripping over things and falling down, which is a little more realistic, and it makes more sense when you realize, oh, the killers are two high school teenagers. Because we remember how goofy and awkward we all were in high school, even if people were athletes, which I was not. But yeah, so the fact that it's two high school kids makes a little more sense that they weren't as experienced with being killers, and they were a little more clumsy in their actions. And there are so many iconic scenes in this movie. Of course, the opening scene with Drew Barrymore getting killed. The garage scene. Oh, that's such an amazing moment. One of my favorites is the scene where Sidney's in the car and then she sees that the killer has the keys to the car, so she's trying to keep all the doors locked as he's trying to get in. And of course the final act in the kitchen where Billy and Stu reveal that they're the killers and they go through their motivations and all that. Great sequence, great sequence.
We did your mom a favor, Sid. That woman was a slutbag whore who flashed her shit all over town like she was Sharon Stone or something.
Yeah, it would put her out of her misery, because let's face it, Sidney, your mother was no Sharon Stone.
I watch Scream at least once every October. It is a good movie for Halloween, and it's an important film to me because it's so nostalgic for me, since me and my friend made connections with Halloween and the Scream franchise, so we kind of grew our friendship around this movie. But yes, I absolutely love Scream. I am a Scream 2 apologist. I think that is definitely my favorite sequel in the franchise, and I will defend it any day. Yeah, Scream. I mean, I don't know how many Scream fans we have in the audience right now, but this is a movie that means so much to me, and I will definitely be watching it this October.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.